Amanda was just a quiet village woman known for her pepper soup until her husband Michael betrayed her in the worst way. But instead of tears, she served him a meal that would change the village forever. What she cooked wasn't just food, it was revenge, truth, and redemption all in one pot. Set in a modern Nigerian village, this darkly humorous and emotionally powerful story unfolds with suspense, drama, and poetic justice. You will never look at a pot of soup the same way again. Watch till the end. You won't believe how Amanda turns betrayal into power. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable African folktale stories. So, guys, let's find out what happened in this thrilling story. In the quiet village of Umugu, Amanda's pepper soup was legendary. Market women talked about it as if it had healing powers. Taxi drivers swore it could cure hangovers. And the village chief himself had once requested a pot during a naming ceremony. Amanda, a 33 years old lady with soft brown skin, always wore her signature green Ankara apron and had the kind of smile that made even gossipers hush. Her husband, Michael, however, had long stopped approaching her magic in the kitchen or anywhere else. Michael was the kind of man who changed like seasons. When they met in the city 10 years ago, he was charming and generous. But back in the village, he had become boastful, secretive, and cruel. He spent more time in his tailor made kaftan visiting a mysterious herb woman outside town than he did at home. Amanda's friends warned her that man is feeding something else, said Mama Ozioma, her neighbor, but Amanda kept silent, pouring her frustration into every carefully stirred pot. One market morning, while picking uziza leaf for her next soup, Amanda overheard something that shattered her final trend of patience. Two young girls behind her giggled about certain fine man who brings love offering to the herb woman, describing Michael's shoes exactly the way it was. Amanda froze, her breath caught, but she kept smiling, even as her heart boiled like the broth she was about to prepare. By the time she returned home, her plan had already begun to form, one spoonful at a time. Amanda spent the night grinding her spices in silence. As the stone rolled over the pepper seed and dried crayfish, her mind turned darker than the broth she planned to cook. She remembered how Michael once claimed she was just a village woman with a big spoon, mocking her in front of his drinking friends. That same night, he had come home smelling of incense and another woman's perfume. She visited Mama Agbon, the old spice vendor known for having a herb for every pain. Amanda asked in whisper, "Do you have something that exposed a lying man?" The old woman only smiled and handed her a leaf bundle wrapped in red cloth. "Boil this with your truth," she said cryptically. Amanda returned home and began to prepare the soup as she always did. Meat, stockfish, spices, but this time she added the red bundle last, watching it melt like a secret in boiling oil. Michael scrolled in, drunk on palm wine and arrogance. He barely noticed her as he kicked off his designer slippers. "Hope you cooked something sweet today," he mumbled. Amanda smiled without blinking. "Oh, I cooked something unforgettable." Michael sat at the table, smacking his lips as he devoured the steaming pepper soup. His phone buzzed continuously, but he ignored it, except to smirk once at a message Amanda didn't see. The aroma filled the house, rich with the smoky promise of vengeance. Amanda sat across from him, watching every bite like a priest watching a sinner swallow communion. Halfway through the bowl, Michael began coughing, not violently, but deeply. He paused, frowned, then looked at Amanda. This, this tastes like truth, he muttered, confused. His eyes dilated, his hand trembled slightly. Then he dropped his spoon and began to laugh uncontrollably, not from joy, but from panic. The herbs had done their job. Michael began to talk freely, as if something inside him demanded release. He confessed to giving money to a love priestess. He admitted to a charm to silence Amanda's womb. He even spoke of the girl he planned to marry in secret, claiming Amanda was a stepping stone to wealth. Amanda didn't flinch. She simply stood, took the pot and poured the rest of the soup into the sand outside. Then she turned back and said, "Good, you are finally full of something other than yourself." By morning, Michael was still slumped on the chair, groaning and unable to stand. His tongue had swollen, not from herbs, but from shame. Amanda locked the front door and went to the market square. She sold the leftover soup ingredients to the women at the market, along with a story they could not forget. The truth is like pepper soup, she told them. Hot at first, but if you swallow it, it will clean you out. Soon, whispers turned to words. Women began confronting their husbands. Young girls refused money from older men. Even the herb woman in the next village was said to have packed up and vanished. Michael's secret had become the village's new proverb: never serve lie to a woman who knows her spices. Back home, Michael wept. "Please, Amanda, let me explain." She leaned over him and whispered, "You already did." Then she dropped a tiny paper bag beside him. Inside was the rest of the red herb, now dry, now bitter, like his lies. Amanda packed her things slowly, her spices jars, her cooking pot, and her dignity. She wore a bright yellow Ankara dress, one Michael had once called too loud. It now shimmered with pride as she stood tall at the gate. The village women gathered as Amanda stepped out, clapping in quiet approval. Chief Obinna himself approached her, giving her an envelope. "The council would like you to train our daughters. Teach them your kind of cooking." Amanda smiled. "Not just the cooking, chief, the seasoning of wisdom too." As she boarded bike to the nearby town, Michael watched from the window. He hadn't eaten since that night, not because he couldn't, but because every meal now reminded him of what he had lost. The last thing Amanda left behind was a clay pot on the fire, filled with water, and one final note tapped to the lid. "Let it boil, let it burn, let it teach." Michael couldn't bring himself to throw away the clay pot Amanda had left behind. He still sat on the kitchen fire, water boiling endlessly. Even when the firewood seemed to have burned out, the pot hissed like a whispering curse. Villagers who had passed by the house claimed they heard it muttering names. Some even said they saw Amanda's face in the steam. Every time Michael touched it, his finger tingled, his stomach twisted, and memories flooded in. Amanda's quiet eyes, the taste of the soup, the shame of his confession. He stopped going out. The same friends who once envied him now laughed behind his back. Unable to sleep, he poured the boiling water out one night, but the pot revealed itself by dawn. The elders said that's what happened when you filled a lie and served the truth. Amanda arrived in the neighboring town of Mbano and quickly became a sensation. The town hall invited her for a cooking demonstration, but instead of seasoning lessons, she spoke about respect, betrayal, and reclaiming one's worth. Her speech, sprinkled with laughter and spice metaphors, moved many to tears. She began hosting weekly wisdom feasts for women, meal cooked with meaning, where stories of pain and strength were shared. Widows, wives, even curious young girls flocked in. Amanda became more than a cook. She was now a healer of hearts, a restorer of broken recipe for life. One of the women whispered, "Your soup is not just food, it is fire." Amanda smiled. Fire purifies, it burns, but it also warms. Back in Umogo, Michael's house was now avoided like a shrine. Children ran past it, women crossed the road. He tried to walk to the barber shop, but no one greeted him. One man muttered, "That's the one who tries to feed lies to a goddess." He turned to the only person he trusted, the herbal priestess, who had once made charms for him. But when he arrived at her compound, it was deserted. Only a pail of ashes remained, with a gourd cracked open beside a faded note. The season of secret is love. Alone, broken, and finally hungry, Michael returned home, but nothing he cooked tasted right. The salt betrayed him. The oil refused to fry. Even the soup pot spat back at him. Amanda received a handwritten letter from Umugo. It was from Chief Obinna. It read, "Amanda, our women are waking up, but our men are stumbling in the dark. Will you return? Not as a wife, but as a teacher." She hesitated, returned to the place that once mocked her pain, but then she remembered healing isn't just walking away. Sometimes it is returning stronger. She tied her head wrap, packed her spices, and mounted a bus. The other passengers noticed her glow. One man leaned over and said, "Madam, your perfume smells like pepper soup." Amanda laughed. "Good. That means the truth is catching up with us." Amanda's return to Umugu was met with both cheers and silence. Some men avoided her eyes, but many women lined the streets holding trays of yams and vegetables as offerings. The town square had been transformed for the feast of return. Amanda stood before a large cooking pot and addressed the crowd. "This meal is made with bitter leaf and sweet oil because life is both, and we must taste both to learn." As the pot bubbled, she asked for volunteers to stir. One by one, women came forward, even two brave men joined. Finally, Michael appeared, pale and humbled. "Can I stay?" he asked quietly. Amanda looked at him for a long moment. Then she handed him the spoon. "Only if you promise never to sweeten a lie again." Michael stirred the pot slowly, awkwardly, as the village watched. The same man who once laughed at Amanda's passion for cooking now stood beside her, arms shaking, forehead wet, not from heat, but from shame. Amanda didn't mock him. She simply adjusted the flame. As the soup thickened, Amanda spoke gently. "Every lie you cooked behind my back seasoned this pot. Taste it now and tell me what you have learnt." Michael hesitated, then took a spoonful. It was bitter, sharp, familiar. He looked into Amanda's eyes. I taste regret. Amanda nodded. Good. That's the first honest taste you have had in years. The crowd clapped, not for him, but for Amanda. For the woman who turned betrayal into a lesson. For the chef of vengeance who didn't need to spill blood to make her point. That night, Amanda shared her story on the village radio station. Her words echoed beyond Umugu. She talked about what it meant to be seen as just a wife and how she turned cooking into resistance. The phones rang off the hook. Women from neighboring village called in to thank her. Even a few men admitted their eyes had been opened. Amanda published a small cookbook called Bitter Leaf and Truth. Each recipe paired with a lesson. One page reads, when a man feed his ego, let the woman feed herself strength. Soon, schools began inviting Amanda to speak. She taught girls that cooking isn't servitude, it is storytelling, and every meal tells the truth of the hand that made it. Michael tried to change. He stopped visiting herbalists. He began showing up at Amanda's teaching session, quietly, sitting in the back, listening. The men laughed at first, but slowly a few joined him. One by one, they stopped treating cooking as women's work and started seeing it as an art, one that holds power. Michael apologized again, not just to Amanda, but to the village, not with words, but with actions. He built a new kitchen for the women's group. I wore my pride too long, he said. Amanda accepted the gesture. Pride can't make soup, she replied, but humility can. The village of Umugu held its first annual Truth Feast, a celebration of transparency, honesty, and community. Amanda was honored as the event's founder. Children wore aprons with "Truth is Seasoning" written on them. Husbands and wives cooked together. No one left with an empty stomach or heart. Amanda made the final dish of the day, a pot of her signature pepper soup. But this time, she let the youngest girl stir the pot, passing wisdom to a new generation. As the sun dipped below the hills, Michael approached her with a small wooden spoon carved with her name. I lost you, Amanda, but I hope I haven't lost everything. She looked at him with grace, not softness. You lost what you never valued, but now you are learning to taste slowly. Years passed. Amanda's fame grew, but she never left Umugo. She turned her small home into a culinary school where girls from all over the region came to learn how to cook and how to live with dignity. Michael became her assistant, not out of obligation, but respect. He greeted students, swept the compound, and learned to make stockfish properly. Occasionally, Amanda would glance at him and shake her head with a smirk. Not too much salt, she did warn. You have already had your share. One afternoon, Amanda wrote in her journal, he wanted to control my flame, but I became fire. That evening, she served one final bowl of soup to a young girl who had just arrived from a troubled home. The girl sipped it, smiled, and said, this tastes like strength. Amanda nodded. Yes, my dear, and it's a meal you will never forget. If this story made you understand what different dishes meant and what a strength of a woman can do, like, share, and subscribe for more bold and beautiful African folktales like this. Comment below what you would have done if you were in Amanda's place. Thank you for watching Folktale by Chinelo.